Hey Terra Nova, it's John, and man, I hope you're well. We've been praying for you, for our whole community as a team, for our country, for our world, and in these days where there's increased isolation and so much to be concerned about, so much to maybe even be quite worried about. And not just with this virus, some of us are going through things right now in our lives that have nothing to do with that and are actually incredibly heavy and crushing. And yet, with increased isolation, may feel like there are fewer people to lean on, and less of that sense of community to keep holding us together. And so, with all of that, we as a team want to do all that we can to love and serve one another and actually grow in our sense of community and connection with each other and with God. And we are going to be doing a number of things towards that end over the next few weeks. One of which is to begin this steady, slow drip of some great short little pieces of content for you, whether it's video or written, of devotionals and thoughts about great passages of scripture and things to just build our hope and our courage and our faith, and also our love and connection for one another during this season. And I get to start it off. It's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green. So the first of these little pieces is going to be about St. Patrick. What an incredible story. I'm including a link below this video where you can go and read that story for yourself. And in fact, you're a parent stuck at home with your kids, now trying to figure out homeschooling on top of everything else. You might, if it's age appropriate, if your kids would enjoy, like read the story to them. It's amazing. Patrick, if you don't know, was not born Irish. He was actually captured by Irish slavers and taken as a slave to Ireland. And then a number of years later, I think it was about 6 years later, when he got his freedom, he became a follower of Jesus, went back to Ireland where he was a slave, went back to the people who enslaved him, and spent the rest of his life trying to teach people about Jesus and the forgiveness that God brings through Christ, his Messiah. And an amazing, amazing story. Faced constant daily danger and threat of death, and yet just walked right into it. Such incredible example of the passage that I've been looking to a lot during these days. I was just reflecting. In fact, if you watched the service this past weekend on Facebook Live, by the way, we're getting better at doing that. But if you watch the service, you may have heard me refer to this passage that Paul spoke to his young mentee friend Timothy. And it's right at the opening of his letter. He's talking to Timothy about how he laid his hands on him and prayed that God would fill him with his spirit. And then Paul says to him, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power and of love and of a sound mind," or literally of a wise mind. And man, Patrick was an incredible example of, at times, feeling certainly afraid. His life was being threatened on a number of occasions, and yet living with such power and love, even for those who had enslaved him. It's an amazing, amazing story. And so I leave you today with that passage to reflect on. It's St. Timothy, 2 Timothy 1:7. Read it, get it into your mind. God has not given us a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Reflect on that passage, read the story of St. Patrick, and then maybe today the question to ask yourself, as we're in the middle of, for most of us, the strangest times we've ever seen, even those of us who lived through 9/11. Ask yourself, how do I lean into God's spirit of love and power and wisdom today? What does that look like in the way I interact with news, in the way I interact with my loved ones, these family members I now can't get away from because I'm stuck in the same house with them? Not that that's a bad thing for you. What does it look like to live with a spirit of power and love and of a sound mind in the world around me? Who needs love? Who needs me to be that person who has that spirit today? And how can I carry that with me into the rest of the day? That's my thought for today. If there's anything we can do for you, reply to this email. Many of you have submitted prayer requests from online this last week. And I will be keeping you up to date with all things Terra Nova, including ways that we can all be engaged with each other, praying for each other. We've got a whole lot of ideas going on. Watch also for more of this content coming to you constantly, just to keep your faith and hope and love alive. Thanks, Terra Nova. We love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.